Welcome. You're watching Save the Semiquincentennial. Lincoln's words at Gettysburg are crucial today. Well, this is our most ambitious project in this series of videos. I hope you can stay with it. It's a little longer than usual, but I think you'll see why. And let's start. America 250, the Semiquincentennial, is in just 3 years. It's our 250th birthday, if we make it. It will be the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Some may remember the 1976 spectacular bicentennial. Well, the MAGA crowd that worships Donald Trump is lost. Nothing will convince them otherwise. Not the upcoming trials, not anything. So the work is going to be hard for the rest of us who have not lost our minds if we're going to save American democracy. If Trump is reelected, he has said and written that he will tear the Constitution up on Inauguration Day. As the unitary executive, he will control the fate of the country, including mine, including yours. No more majority rule, no more minority rights. Well, the opposite of Trump is Abraham Lincoln. Historians generally agree. Lincoln is our greatest president, Trump the worst. I'm Dave Balog. I'm the author, and I publish books on science, the brain, neuroscience, and now a series of books on politics and history, and I hope you can check them out in the video below, in the video description below. Well, when Lincoln took the oath of office in March of 1861, the Civil War to decide the fate of the nation was mere weeks away. And administering the oath, in super irony, was Chief Justice Roger Taney, who a few years earlier had delivered the Dred Scott decision. It was and is considered the worst ruling in American judicial history. It inflamed North versus South views on slavery and figuratively lit the torch of the first cannon shot of the war. So bad a ruling is it that some law professors won't teach it today. Throughout the war, which killed 600,000 Americans, Lincoln oversaw a painful reckoning that began to resolve the issues of slavery and union. Decades of indecisive, weak presidents, including some of our founders, couldn't or wouldn't end America's original sin. For all his brilliance, Thomas Jefferson, author of said Declaration of Independence and chief founder and third president of the United States, left a legacy of shame regarding slavery. He owned many slaves and fathered a number of children with his mistress/slave Sally Hemings. He was importuned to release the slaves at his death, as George Washington had done, but he wouldn't do it, and he was adamant about it. Well, President Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address is one of the most famous speeches ever given. It's stunning in its brevity. 10 sentences, 272 words, delivered in just over 2 minutes. Lincoln gave the address on November 19th, 1863. He was in Gettysburg to dedicate a national military cemetery to the Union soldiers who fell at the Battle of Gettysburg 4 months earlier. Lincoln's words live today, calling on Americans to solve divisions that threaten the union of our nation. The North's victory at Gettysburg was one of the pivotal battles of the American Civil War. Lincoln began. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Lincoln goes back not to the signing of the Constitution, but to the Declaration of Independence. The Constitution, informing our government, was the product of many compromises, most notably on slavery. In contrast, the Declaration of Independence declares our national enduring values. All men are created equal. The Confederacy literally put into writing that blacks were not equal to the white man. Lincoln summarizes the American project: liberty for all and equality of all. He continues, now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. Lincoln's assertion is twofold. First, the United States is unique. No nation was ever founded on a commitment to liberty and equality, and the Civil War was a trial to see if a nation based on such lofty ideals could survive. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania was the site of the bloodiest battle of America's bloodiest war. In 3 days of fighting, 51,000 Americans on both sides, Union and Confederate, were killed, wounded, captured, or missing. Lincoln continues, we have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those here who gave their lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. Lincoln is not in Gettysburg to set up or celebrate the Union victory, as would a Trump do in his cynical manner. Rather, Lincoln explains that those who fought were the loyal guardians of the American experiment. With their blood, they watered the tree of liberty. He even speculates that the world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. Lincoln challenges the bitterly divided nation. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to the cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. The Republican Party, for which Lincoln was the first president, was a party created to give voice to poor white men as well as slaves and others. Lincoln was a poor white man himself. He grew up without slaves, without land, which meant you had almost nothing. With only 2 years of education, how does one come from nothing and nurture the ideals that make this country great, that make you into something where you can actually be a leader of this nation, despite being part of the voiceless Republican Party of the 19th century? For Lincoln, the core of capitalism is not about getting rich. It's about getting fairly compensated for your work. It's about being incentivized to do better work. And Lincoln was constantly striving. Lincoln taught